one, depending on your location. Welcome to today's webinar. I'm going to give everyone just a minute or two. I want to point out a couple of things before we actually get started. There is a Q&A area, so feel free to type any questions that you may have during the presentation in the Q&A area. We'll answer some of those as we go along, but if we don't answer yours right away, don't panic. We'll have some time for questions and answers at the end, and we'll make sure that we've addressed everyone's concerns or questions before we finish up today. And if there's something that we can't answer, we'll make sure we pass that question on to someone who can get back in touch with you. You do not need a microphone or a camera. We're expecting quite a few people, so we actually won't be giving audio rights to attendees, so don't do that. I think we had over 100 people register today, and that just gets a little too convoluted if you have that many people trying to talk. So we'll just stick with the Q&A area. Let me introduce myself. My name is Shelley McCollum, and I'm an instructional specialist with Remote Learner and a member of his training team. For those of you not familiar with Learning Spaces, that's our training site. We offer course developer, site administrator training. So if you have any questions about that at the end, I'm happy to answer those for you as well. Today, though, we're going to be focusing on Remote Learner's new reporting and analytics solution. And I say new because we've rolled out several new features on our LMS systems in the last month or two. We want to make sure that everybody's aware of what's out there and what's available to you. But we're also going to back up a little bit and talk briefly about the reporting options that are built into your LMS that are part of a standard Moodle package. Make sure that everyone is aware of what is by default in any LMS that's run on the Moodle platform. So we're going to go ahead and get started. This session is being recorded. A copy of this recording or a link to it, excuse me, in the follow-up email that you should receive within about 24 hours. Usually that's a question I get asked, so we'll just put that out there. So let's start off with what is to the Moodle LMS platform. So we have a couple of types of reports that are standard in Moodle, and the first one that we're going to talk about is the logs. Logs are going to be a method by which you can do every action that takes place on your server. And in version 2.7, the Moodle LMS actually changed its logging system so that it is a much more comprehensive logging system. So if you were coming from an older version of Moodle, then you may not be used to all of the options that are currently available to you. There were a lot of things that didn't show up in the logs, or the logs were a little bit harder to search through. A little bit easier now to do that. And there are really three types of log files that are part of your standard LMS installation. The first one we're going to talk about is the config changes. Now all of these that we're talking about right at the moment, these are going to be site administrator access in order to access the site level logs. And you would find those in your site administrator. I am so sorry. I'm being told that the sound, and we're going to see if I can reset a microphone here. Okay, and let's just test that. Is that any better? Could someone give me a heads up in the Q&A area? Okay, great. If that happens again, please let me know. Thank you, I appreciate that. So sorry. Don't you love technology? Thing is, the logs that we're going to start off talking about are available to anyone who has site administrator privileges, and they're going to be found in the site administration menu of your site. And there's an entire area that is labeled reports. It's usually somewhere down toward the bottom. I'm going to expand that out, and you're going to see that we have our config changes log. Now the config changes is a nice place to go if you're trying to figure out why something on your site suddenly is not working the way it used to, or if the appearance of your site has suddenly been altered. Because the config changes is going to record any change that is made to pretty setting within the site administration menu. Okay, so these are going to be things like if you have done some kind of alteration to your theme settings, if you've changed messaging output defaults, if you've changed, put your site into maintenance mode or taken it out of maintenance mode. So any of those things that site administrators would do are typically going to be recorded here in the config changes menu. These are going to be settings that are going to affect the site as a whole. Okay, so it wouldn't be. And someone else said the sound has cut out again. Is it? Well, let's just unplug this and we'll just go. Okay, can everyone hear me now? All right, we're going to try this straight off of the computer microphone, and I do apologize. So again, anything that's recorded in the config changes is going to be really something that's a site-wide setting. It's not going to be anything that really affects one individual user. Now the nice thing about this log is the fact that it is sortable by any of the options across the top of the screen. So if you know what setting you're looking for, you can always sort. If you know what day things started to go wrong or something changed, you can sort by date as well. It's also going to make sure that it gives you the new value or the most recent change to the setting, as well as what the setting had been configured for previously. So it sets original value, but that might be a little misleading because that's not the default value or the original value when it's first set up on the site. It's what the value had been set at for that setting before you made the most recent change. And this is great because if you have something that starts to go haywire, you can always go back and change a setting back to what it had been previously when things were functioning as they should have been. So this is a good troubleshooting report that's available to you in your report section if you're logged in as a site administrator. Now the other page that I want to point out very quickly is the events list. When they rolled out the new logging system, excuse me, we have debugging on this site. When they rolled out the new logging system, included this events list. This is not actually a log or a report itself, as much as this is a key to help you better understand the information that is presented in the logs. So for example, you can see they tell you every event that is being recorded on your site. So anytime a badge is awarded, that's being recorded. Anytime a comment is being deleted on the site, that's being recorded as well. So now you know what the event name is, which makes it easier for you to filter and sort through the logs in order to find the information you're looking for. In this list, you'll also find the component of your LMS that is being affected, whether it's a core component or if it's something that's related to a plugin that you may have added to your site. And it will also explain the education level. Now, education level is a new filtering field that they looking through log files so that you can actually hone in a little more precisely on the type of actions you're looking for. So for example, if something is a teaching level action, that's going to be something like an instructor creates a form in a course, or they add a quiz to the course, or they post a grade in the grade book. Whereas a participating event would be something more along the lines that a student or a course participant would do. So they might include items such as posting a reply in a forum rather than creating a forum, or submitting an assignment for assessment rather than actually creating the assignment. So again, it's going to help you filter those logs because as you're going to see in a second, those logs can become very cumbersome. You you have a very active site or a large participant population on your site. Now they also have a category for other, and anytime you see other under education level, that's referring to actions that really don't have anything to do with the role that you're assigned. It could be things that anyone on your site might do, such as logging into the site or sending a message through the built-in message. The other thing on the events list that I just want to make sure we point out is over at the very end, they also have a column for the legacy event. So since they started with the new logging system, they have changed some of the events and how those entries are stored in the database. So if you're searching through a log and you're not able to find the information you're looking for because you're looking for blog created, you might, if it actually took place prior to an upgrade, so in a version older than 2.7, you might have to look for something that says blog entry added instead. So they do put that out to the side to give you that information for those of you that may have been for a little while and have upgraded over time from older versions to the newer logging system. Now once you take this information in the logs, in the event list, you can go over and view the logs. Logs are completely filterable, so when you first enter the log screen, it's going to come up as a blank. You kind of have to click the button that says get these. Typically would recommend that you would sort, filter, so that you can get some more specific information initially. So you can look for a specific participant if you have one, you can look for activities that took place on a specific day, and you can look for specific types of activities, site errors, whether or not they were creating or updating, again, that education level. And here you can choose if you want to search through the standard log, which would be the current form of logs, or again, if you have a site that was upgraded from a version before 2.7, you can go and look in the 2.6 prior. You can also look in a specific course. Now this is important because not only the site administrators, but also course facilitators, because course actually have access to logs for their specific course from within their course. So let me show you what that looks like, because it's going to use a very similar system. The only difference is they will be limited. The logs that are pulled are always going to be just for that course. So they have their own reports area inside of their course administration menu. They're going to click their logs option, and you can see it automatically filters it for that course. Now because I'm a site administrator, I can go ahead and look for other courses or the site as a whole, but those teachers would only have access to the logs for their course. Then once you click the Get These Logs button, it's going to display the list of all of the actions that fit the filter settings that you have selected. Again, interactive log. So it doesn't allow you to sort across the top because you do have the filtering options. So unlike the config changes, you can't sort by column, but you can click any of the hyperlinked information to get more information about it. So for example, if I click on a user's name, it's going to take me to their user profile. If I click on the event context where this event took place, it's going to take me to that area of the site. So this would take me to this specific lesson within that course. The nice thing about the logs is the fact that if you scroll all the way to the bottom, you do have the ability to download these. And this is important because, as we're going to see in a minute, there are some drawbacks to the logs that are, or the reports, excuse me, that are built in as part of the standard Moodle package. And one of those drawbacks is the fact that they are all text-based logs. There's no graphic interface to turn this information into something that is easily presented or deciphered. So if you wanted to, for example, create graphs from this information, traditionally you would have to download the information like a CSV or an Excel spreadsheet, and then you would have to use a spreadsheet type application in order to put in whatever kind of sorting and filtering and equations that you needed to be computed, and then you would have that create a graph for you. do the analysis for you. So again, this is really a report. It's not really any type of analytics, and I want you to keep that in mind as we continue to look through the options that we have, because that's one of the things we're excited about with the new additions that you can have added to your LMS. Now, back in our reports section, we also have a live logs page. This is going to give us the same kind of information that we would see in the traditional log screen, but this is going to be updated in real time. So it's going to display actions that have taken place in roughly the last hour. And this is a demo site, so we don't really have a lot of other people on it, but this screen would constantly be scrolling as new actions are taking place. So you can imagine this might be a tiny bit overwhelming if you have an extremely busy site, but you do have the ability to pause those updates and then really investigate any of the entries, and then you can click the resume live updates whenever you're ready for it to continue, and it'll refresh the screen and catch you up to the present time. So same information as the logs, but it's going to be a great way if you're trying to troubleshoot a problem that you're currently seeing on your site at that exact moment. Now we also have some other types of reports that are part of the standard platform that we kind of refer to as overview reports. You have a performance overview, a security overview, and then we're going to look at another report that they call question instances. These are only available to site administrator. There is not an equivalent report within the courses like there would be for the logs and the live logs. So the performance overview, again, is going to be found in the reports area. And this is just a really quick way to kind of keep up with if there are any issues that may be affecting the performance on your site. Now, many of these settings, if you are hosted with Remote Learner, are going to be pre-configured in order to make sure your site, your server, is performing at optimal levels. However, if you have some plugins that you have added to your site, that may be something that we have not pre-configured for you if you've added your own plugins. So you might just want to take a look if you're getting performance reports, something about lag time, slow response, anything like this. This would be a good place to go initially. Now you can see in the value area that if it's green, that means that it is properly configured for optimum performance based on what the Moodle community and Remote Learner know about how Moodle functions, how your LMS is supposed to respond. If you see something that's gray, that may be something that might need you more attention. If you see something that's red, that would be something that might be a cause for concern. But sometimes, you know, we all have to have a trade-off, so you might have something that had to be configured a certain way for specific functionality you were looking for. So keep that in mind, and nobody panic if you see something red. It's just a good indication that you might want to be aware that your site is configured that way, and maybe investigate through Remote Learner support whether or not that should be changed to improve performance. Many of these issues, as they are called, and it doesn't necessarily mean there's something wrong with them because they appear in the list, settings that are known issues within the Moodle community. Many of these might be locked out by Remote Learner to keep you from being able to change the setting so that you will not inhibit the performance of your site. So we try to help you out with that, part of our hosting services with you. But just nice to know that it's there so you can take a look at it, especially if you have a lot of plugins, might be something worth looking into. There's also a security overview screen. And again, some of these will be pre-configured, and again, depending on what plugins you have or how you have your site customized, there might be some things that need your attention. You can see that in the status on this one, same color coding. Green means everything's A-OK. Warning is kind of that brownish gray color, and then if there is an issue, it's going to be in red. Now that doesn't necessarily mean you have to change it. You may have configured it that way for a purpose, but it's just drawing your attention to the fact that there could be an issue with that. What I like about this is if you click on any of the issues in the list, it will give you more detailed information about why that might be a potential problem. So this is a great way to kind of educate yourself. Then we also have our question instances. Now the question instances screen is going to list all of the questions that are quiz questions that appear anywhere on your site. And you can search this by question type. This is, again, a great place to go if you're troubleshooting something on your site, or if you're trying to kind of get an idea of the types of assessments that your course facilitators are using. So you can actually go and look and see what types of questions are they proposing to your students, to your participants. Are they doing more higher level thinking, or are they sticking mostly with matching type questions? And you can click any of the links in the context area and you'll be taken directly into the question bank in which those questions appear. Okay. This is also good if you're doing something like if you're starting to notice that you're having any issues with a quiz functioning properly, and you can kind of go and look and see, is there one question type? If that question type is related to a separate plugin that's not part of the standard package, maybe we need to update that plugin, because you could go and see if other questions of that same type were having issues in other courses or other areas of your site. So again, lots of potential for troubleshooting, but not really any type of way to take the data and do anything with it. So you can see it, right? You can kind of click around and investigate it a little bit, but there's not really anything to take away from that, and there's not an easy way to share it. Now, in addition to the logs in courses, there are some other reports that you might want to make sure that any of your course facilitators understand that they have access to. And these are a little bit more user-friendly, I think, in terms of sharing, because most of these are going to be downloadable, just like our logs were. So I'm going to go back into my course, and we're going to look at, first of all, the completion reports. So if you're making use of activity completion or course completion options in your courses, within the course administration menu, under that reports option, you're going to have reports for both of those things. And these reports are just going to be checklists. So these are at a glance. You can see who is progressing at what rate through your course, how close are they to actually completing. And again, the download options are on the bottom. Okay. Now when you download it, you don't get to download it with all the pretty graphics. It comes down as a pretty plain spreadsheet file, just to make you aware of that. And activity completion is very similar. And then we also have an activity report. This one is a great way to kind of very quickly figure out what portions of your course are the most popular, what portions of the course are not being accessed at all, when certain activities in the course were last accessed. So you could see if a forum's kind of fallen out of use, or here's one that's really popular, everybody takes the quiz, people do the lesson, that type of general information. This isn't going to give you any specifics about individual users though. Now the last report that I want to show you that is, again, these are all part of the standard LMS package, is going to be the course participation report. And I think this is one that a lot of instructors are really not aware of, and it can be fairly useful because you can filter this report for a specific activity course. And it's going to display a list with all of the students that have been involved in that activity. Let's see if I can find one of those lessons that was really popular. So we have a lot of activity to look at. That one obviously wasn't it. Let's try this one. Again, I apologize. This is a demo site, so we don't have all kinds of class activity. But here you can see we have a student listed, and it tells you what they have done within that lesson module activity that I selected. Now, oh, you can also choose, let's try this one. That might be part of the problem. You can choose the role, and there we go. I was looking at managers only. I needed to look at students, filter for students. Now, the interesting thing about this that I think a lot of instructors are not aware of, can choose or select individual list, and then you can go and send a message directly to them. So I get asked quite frequently, is there a way for me to be notified? I apologize. Just saw that you lost the video. Give me one moment. Okay, it should be back now. Okay, so here is that course participation menu I was looking at. You can sort by activity module. And then you can check the names of the students that you're interested in, and you can send a message directly to them regarding that particular activity. Such a great way to be able to, prod those, right? Oh, sorry. I apologize. Someone came in the room as an organizer, and it made them the presenter. There we go. So you can send a message to these people regarding this specific activity, prod them along, coaching, let them know if they've missed a deadline, whether you're going to extend any kind of grace period, anything like that. Now, as I mentioned already, there are some limitations to these. These are, again, all built-in standard to Moodle. But as I've already said a couple of times, they're all pretty much, there's not really any kind of graphic display. All of these reports are downloadable, and there's really not any kind of connection between the reports. These are all kind of functioning in their own little universe. So there's to analyze and compare the information from one course with another course unless you're downloading them into external software and running all of those comparisons yourself. So if this was all you had, it's an extremely manual process to get the kind of analytic information that a lot of us are looking for in terms of student progress, not just in one course, but across an activity in all of their courses. Which of our courses are the most popular? Which of the courses are the least used? Those types of questions are not easily answered using the information. Moodle is collecting it all. It's just not a format that's easy to use. So Remote Learner has come up with a couple of different options to provide those analytic tools to our hosted. And the first one that I want to show you is the RL Dashboard. Now, the RL Dashboard is going to be kind of the hub from now on for all of our hosted clients to find out in one place all of the relevant information about their site, how it's functioning, issues with the site currently. So it's going to be a place where you can find out a lot of information in one screen. We do this through the use of widgets. So the screen is going to be divided up into widgets, and each widget is supposed to give you specialized information. Now, to access the RL Dashboard, you actually are going to be using a block that is replacing the RL Update Manager block. So if any of you are used to using that RL Update Manager block, that is the process of being replaced with the RL Dashboard block. You do not have to do anything in order to get the new block. That will be pushed out to your hosted site by us, so it will just replace it. Functionality that was in the RL Update Manager block is still in the RL Dashboard block, but it has additional options as well. So if you are already using the RL Update Manager block to add plugins to your site, you would still be able to do that through the RL Dashboard. Okay, but the dashboard screen itself you would access by clicking the dashboard link, and when you do that, you get a screen that looks something like this. Now, in my screenshot, you'll see that I have a support cases widget that comes up. I don't currently have any cases or a support account tied to this demo, so it's not going to show up. But typically what would happen here is you would have a list of all of the open cases that were related to your site. You would be able to see who had reported it, when it was reported. You would also be able to click on the link ticket to be able to log directly into the RL support portal and see all of the details components. If you need to open a new ticket, you would just click the Submit New Ticket button. That'll be at the bottom of that block, and again, it will take you directly to the support portal where you can put in a new support ticket for that block as well. You also will have an announcements widget. The announcements are going to be anything that is related to your server function. So you can see that we don't necessarily have anything critical. These will be color-coded. So critical, it would be in red. I think we had a demo. There we go. It would be in red, so you would be able to immediately see there was some announcement that needed your attention. Then they would also have server status that would be listed in here to let you know how your server is. These messages do not replace any of the messages that your site administrators may already be receiving. Those would still be sent out to them as a message, but they would also be housed here in the site so that it's going to be missed, hopefully. Whoops. You also are going to have the traffic statistics block. Now, the traffic is going to give you real-time information about how many page views your site has, how many unique users are logged in, and how many requests are being made. So basically, and accessing materials in the course, that type of information. It has multiple tabs so that you can look at the live data that's coming in over the course of an hour. Or you can look at the archive information, and that is a scrollable, so you can scroll from left to this graph to go back in time to kind of evaluate the peak times of your site. Then you can also click on the load times tab, and that's going to show you how it's taking pages on your site to load, and it will tell you what the time is on that for peak times, for 50% of your peak time. So this is going to help you make sure that your site is functioning, that you have appropriate what we call concurrency site. You currently can get traffic stats information. Is asking a question, do we currently have it available? You would need to actually call and talk to your account manager executive to find out that kind of information, and they can pull a report for you. But built into the Moodle itself, there is no traffic stats like that. So we have created this graph so that you can follow it in your dashboard on your own. So when the dashboard block gets pushed out to your site, access to this immediately. Okay. Now there is some other information on the dashboard as well. There are some general Moodle statistics. So to figure out what version you're on, I get asked that question all the time. How do I find out what version I'm on? Also, how many active courses you have, how many total courses you have, and your user stats. Just very general information, but again, it's just at a glance. If you would like more detailed information, then we have something new to offer to you. Remote Learner has recently partnered with Intel. A lot of people are extremely excited to hear about the IntelliBoard partnership. Now, the IntelliBoard does require that you install a plugin, which is the IntelliBoard plugin. That is typically done through that dashboard block by clicking the Manage Add-ons, and that takes you into our Mass area. Now, I have been told that the IntelliBoard they were having an issue, and so it's saying as of right now you can't install the IntelliBoard plugin while they work out an issue. You know, when it is going to be available.
Sorry, can I jump in here real quick? This is Mark McCall,
sure.
Director of Product Marketing, and I just want to address that issue right there. And IntelliBoard, we're very excited about IntelliBoard. We're very excited about everything that Shelley's going to share with you and show you on everything. We ran into a slight hiccup in our testing as of late with extremely large sites, and so these were extremely large use case, extremely large logs, and extremely large use on the IntelliBoard, which is not within our general clientele that we have in place. And so the techs came back very late and just asked us if we would kind of not slow down. We still, I mean, this is something that's going to happen, but why they investigate on an extremely large side. But I think as you'll see it throughout this demo, there's some great stuff with IntelliBoard, and there's some excellent. It's an excellent resource, and we are working as quickly as possible to get it back into MAS, where you can fully take advantage of everything that IntelliBoard offers. So, I wanted to leave that up. That has only affected, again, some of the very large sites with very large log tables, and it's just a slight performance with some of the large sites that we're working very closely with IntelliBoard to close that gap and bring it back in where we can make it widely available. And again, I'm excited about IntelliBoard. Remote Learner is excited about IntelliBoard. We still want you to back your if you're interested in IntelliBoard, please let us know, and we'll make sure that we get you on the list to where that is available there. So, Shelley, I'll turn it back over to you. I just wanted to state that bringing you the most up-to-date news that I have. So.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Yeah, I was getting pinged with messages talking about how it's not available today, but it will be available soon because they're working on that key.
For 98% of the use cases, it's worked perfect. It's just that very top high end that we certainly have to account for.
Okay. Well, when you go and you look for the plugin, typically you would uncheck the Only Show Golden Add-ons button in the plugins database, and you would IntelliBoard. And you can see it would show up in here. It's already installed on this site, but typically you would click the install button and then click the green install, and it will put the plugin on your site. Now, there is no charge for plugin to be added. It's going to be free. It gets added onto your site, and it's immediately going to give you access to the IntelliBoard dashboard. I want to make sure everyone understands that there are additional features that you will be able to show you both if you decide to add an IntelliBoard subscription to your site. So the plugin itself, no charge, dashboard, no charge, but then there are additional features that are subscription based. Before I get into too much of that, I ask people now, when will the dashboard get put or when will it be released? I know they're in the process of doing that, so they've been working through pushing that out to our sites one at a time. There is some configuration on the back end that they have to do when they set up that dashboard to make sure that the support ticket into that widget, that the traffic stats are populating into that widget correctly. So I had been told previously was to have that dashboard pushed out to all the clients by the end of the year. Mark, are you still there? Do you know if that is still the goal, or?
Yes, that's still the goal. And again, that's something that we'll take on the back end as far as getting that pushed out, and we'll send out notifications when it is there.
There you go. He would be the guy in charge of that, so you got it straight from his mouth. Now the IntelliBoard dashboard itself. Now this is separate from the Remote Learner dashboard. This is the dashboard for IntelliBoard. So when you install the IntelliBoard plugin, you get an IntelliBoard option at the bottom of your site administration menu. And when you open it, the first is the dashboard. Now this is the IntelliBoard dashboard again. So this is going to give you some general information. It's kind of like a preview of what IntelliBoard is capable of doing, is what I would say. They're going to give you the kind of what I call at the top of the screen that's going to give you just the general information about your usage on your site, how many courses you have, how many users you have, how many modules you're using, and it's going to give you some traffic stats also particular day and that particular week. And you can click on any of the data points to get a little more detail about those specific data points. And you can see it's looking at not just the number of sessions, but course and enrollments of users. Then when you go scroll down a little bit further, you get some enrollment information. This is going to be about enrollment methods. If this one just shows cohort and manual, because those are the only two enrollment methods being used on this site, but if you were using other methods, it would give you a breakdown of how people are getting into your courses. It'll give you a user's overview. It's going to be users that have been participating in the courses on your site, what their current scores are, how many visits they've made, and overall time spent. You know, that's something that I get asked quite frequently, is how long people are spending in areas. IntelliBoard can do that for you. If you have a global site, this is kind of interesting. They have the registration information that will show you where all of your to you from, and then it's going to give you a participation graph over here, or chart, and this is basically showing the courses that you have on your site. It's going to be looking at the number of users enrolled versus the number who have completed individual courses. So it's a great way to kind of keep up with which ones are active, which ones are people not actually completing, and so on and so forth. So all of the dashboard graphs are available to you with the installation of the plugin. It's just automatic. You don't have to set anything else up. If you want to access any of the other information in IntelliBoard, an IntelliBoard subscription. And because Remote Learner has partnered with IntelliBoard, we're able to offer a discounted subscription to Remote Learner users. And you can get that subscription. If you install the plugin, a notice shows up at the top of the page, if you don't already, that has a link that would take you to IntelliBoard.net, where you can subscription on your own. You don't have to call anybody. You can just set it up. If you do it that way, you do need to make sure that when you're choosing your subscription, when you select your provider, you make sure that you choose Remote Learner so that you get the partner rate that we have. Otherwise, if you like, you can talk to your account executive, and they can get that all set up for you and added to your site. Once you have that subscription in place, then all of the other tabs will actually populate. So you can click on them even if you don't have the subscription, but everything's great to display any information for you. So we have learners, courses, load, and reports. And as you can see, you're going to get some extremely colorful graphics. All of these graphics can be downloaded. These reports can be downloaded as well. And I just want to show you some of the reports that are available to you. So they have a couple of dozen, maybe more than that, reports that are already pre-configured in IntelliBoard. You can go over to your settings area and you can choose which reports you want to have show up in your reporting list, your reports list over here. So I'm going to save those settings. And once I do that, if I click on the reports drop-down, you can see they all populate the drop-down now. I can click on any of those reports, can choose my parameters as far as the time period that I'm having it searched for, and it's going to give me all of this information. Now, when I click on any of the student names in these reports, it's going to take me to more detailed information about that student, and I'm not sure why it asked me to sign in. Typically, it would just sign in. We'll see if we can get there another way, and it will show us also. Now, you can pull some of these reports that are available will already be displayed in graphic form on the other tabs. So any of this information is basically coming out of the reports that are available to you. So you can see here's what's available on the learner screen just by default, and this is still my Moodle site. I'm not moving away from the Moodle site right now. This is all displayed to you on your LMS site. So I can go get some general information about courses. It'll tell me if any new courses have been built, my enrollments, my most visited. I like this one, the courses with 0 activity. Easy way to weed out which ones are ready to be archived. Load is going to be more of those traffic type statistics. Lots of information in here. The idea of the browser statistics and the operating systems, because it really lets you know what kind of devices access your account, the languages used, and then the amount of resources that are being allocated to each individual course. You can see, is there a course that is just huge, that's taking up a lot of resources? Do we need to, you know, giving more allocation of memory to specific courses, that type of thing. So now I'm being asked, can you not do the same type of reporting in Ellis? Ellis of user reporting if you're an Ellis subscriber. But Ellis isn't going to give you this type of information about your browsers, about the IP addresses that are being used on the site. And again, Ellis is very similar to the Moodle reports in that a lot of the information that you find there is going to be user specific or course specific. And you're going to see here, for example, the top 10 most visited courses and 0 activity, the most visited courses. These types of things are going to allow you to compare across your site. And that's something that Ellis can do a little bit of, but not to anywhere near the extent that IntelliBoard can do. The other thing that IntelliBoard can do, I'm just going to show you some reports from sites. These are other demo sites that have more data on them. So here's a learning progress report, and it's looking by user, and it's looking at a specific course, and it's telling you how much time they've spent, their current score, if being tracked in that course. Here's progress by learner again, a little bit different because it's looking at how many courses they're in, completed activities. It doesn't track activities as much as learning objectives, so if you didn't tie them together, it wouldn't be doing that. Completed courses, visits. We've got another learner performance. This is more of the time that's being spent. Here are overdue users, so these are people who have missed a deadline or haven't logged in a long time. Here is student performance at the progress through a specific course. How close are they to being finished? How many activities are completed? What's their score? Here is a specific stats comparing courses. So this is looking across courses on your site, comparing how many enrolled users they have, or how many modules are in the site, which ones are active, looking at the learner visits, participations versus views for specific users within courses. This is just some of the reports that are available to you. Activity stats, so it's going to give you scores on activities. Quiz attempts, this one's great if you use a lot of quizzes to look at the number of attempts, how many questions, and the average grade. Really help you analyze your assessment. There are forum statistics, reports about active forums, how many users are posting, how many of those are unique posts, that type of thing. Discussions that are available. Here's teaching activity. So if you're a site administrator and you're trying to track what you're doing, or your course facilitators, you can kind of keep up with what they have added to their courses, how many different types of activities they created, what types of resources they bring. Teacher performance, so you can compare across your entire site the grades that are being given out by teachers in different courses or in the same course, your most. So you can see there's a plethora of information in all of those reports. Now, because you have the subscription, you have the ability to access IntelliBoard. You just click that link that's in the dashboard screen or any of the IntelliBoard screens on your site, and it's going to take you to IntelliBoard.net, where there is a wealth of other information. Now you can see that I have the same options, learners, courses, loads, reports, as I had, but I also have some others. I have some analytics options that are coming up. I'm going to have it load very quickly. Let's see if it's going to get, here's my learners. Now here are all the same widgets, all those same reports that I had, but now I have the ability to actually export those reports. I have the ability to share them either by email or as an embedded link, so I can embed that graph into a web page or my Moodle site into a course there if I wanted. And I have the ability to actually schedule those reports to whomever is an interested party automatically at a regular interval. So I don't necessarily have to go hunting for this information anymore. I can have it sent directly to me. You also can set up notifications on the IntelliBoard.net site. They have a notification center. Let's see if we can get the pop-up to close. So I can create a new notification and I can choose what it is that I'm looking for. I have been asked time and time again, is there a way to have Moodle message me if someone's grade drops below passing and there is a course failure? There's also a course inactivity that you can set up. Now, these features, when you set up your IntelliBoard.net account, if you get the remote learner discounted one, that gives you unlimited users. So you can create little sub-accounts for all of your instructors, and they would be able to set these types of notifications and pull these types of reports for the courses that are assigned to them. So this is not just information that stays with the site administrator. You can have other individuals, and they can be given access to the areas that they need their information on. So you can set up those to you directly. So again, that information is being brought to your doorstep. And then there's also finally the option to request a custom report. And to me, this is one of the most powerful pieces of the IntelliBoard subscription. Right down here at the bottom, you can click the Request Report button. And you can basically tell IntelliBoard what type of report you're looking for. You even have the ability to give them a template file if you know exactly, like maybe you've been downloading information and creating this report yourself. You can give them that template file and explain to them what fields you need and what you need it to look like, and then you just agree to terms and submit it. Now, depending on the complexity of the report, this could take anywhere from a couple of days to maybe a little bit longer if it's a really complex report that's going to require a lot of data manipulation. But to have the custom report created is free. And what happens is once they create the report, it becomes available in the list of reports. So anyone who's an IntelliBoard subscriber would then be able to use this report. It would be available to everyone to be run whenever they want it on demand. So you're basically giving them the parameters and they're doing the programming for you so that that report would become available to you to use whenever you needed it. Okay. I do want to mention though that if you do a custom report, you would have to, once the report is ready, update the plugin for IntelliBoard. Because one of the other nice things about IntelliBoard that I want to make sure everyone understands is that even though you're having to go to IntelliBoard.net to pull some of these reports and some of these features, your data is never housed on IntelliBoard.net. So what ends up happening is every time you go and you call for a report, IntelliBoard sends a request to your Moodle site and pulls that information at that specific moment and displays it in IntelliBoard.net. But that information is not housed on their site. So for that reason, it doesn't save any of these reports there. So if you need to pull it again, you would have to re-pull it unless you download it or email it to yourself or something like that. But if any of you are worried about your data security, your data is not going to be housed on an outside server. It's not going to this third-party server where they're keeping it. It's just being displayed there. And that's why the plugin would need to be updated, because if there's a new report, that plugin has all the parameters for what information has to be collected and sent over to IntelliBoard for display on IntelliBoard.net. So that's the only other little bit about the report, but option especially for those of you that are concerned about data security. that's about it for IntelliBoard, and I say it, but I mean it does an awful lot. If you have any questions, we have about 5 or 6 minutes left, so I'm happy to answer those. And I'm looking back through some of the ones that we may have gone over. And I'm looking, Mark, I have a question that they're asking dashboard, what is RL using to track page views? And I don't know that myself.
It's going to be looking at the different events, the new event triggers that are within Moodle.
Okay.
So it is going to be a 2.7 and higher.
Okay, so it's going to go over and it's going to look at the event list. And if you look at the event list, they actually have the events categorized not only by education level, but database query. And I'm guessing it's going to be something like view, because they do have view as one of those query types. It's when they look at it. And you can see that in the logs, or I guess it would probably be red, is when it's viewed. So it's going through and looking at the information that Moodle is logging and displaying those as the views.
Yeah, and I also wanted to mention, I know you had an earlier question on Ellis and Ellis reports. There is some difference between what IntelliBoard is pulling out and what Ellis has available in reports today. We are working with IntelliBoard. Part of our partnership with them is actually migrating some of the Ellis reports. So it's, starting with the most used Ellis reports into an IntelliBoard type of environment. So if you're in an environment that has Ellis and you have Ellis deployed, then you'll get access to a lot of the same reports that are captured through the Ellis hierarchy. So bringing in program and courses, kind of the summarizations there as well.
So Holly Venner had asked the question, is there a plan to augment Ellis with this capability, or is Remote Learner moving away from Ellis?
So to address that question, it's actually, it will probably end up ultimately being a little bit of both, meaning that we'll actually augment IntelliBoard with Ellis capabilities, but in any of those reports that are not able to easily fit into IntelliBoard, or doesn't make sense, or maybe they're a little bit more custom or one-off, we also have the option of bringing them in and bringing in the same reporting engines and toolkits that IntelliBoard has, and graphing kits, and revising and updating the Ellis reports, and so that it has the same look and feel for the data there.
And Holly, just to be clear, IntelliBoard is really the reporting portion. So, there is other capability that Ellis is doing as far as managing your users and your enrollments and your courses and your curriculums that you're building, or your programs that you're building, that would not be replaced by IntelliBoard.
Right.
I was also asked, do you have to have Remote Learner to get IntelliBoard, or can anyone buy it? I believe IntelliBoard is available to the general public, but because of our partnership that Remote Learner has with IntelliBoard, you get a extremely discounted rate on the subscription if you're a Remote Learner hosted client. And as Mark was saying, as we continue to work with our partnership, I'm sure there are going to be the reports available, such as the Ellis reports, that are only available to Remote Learner clients. I was asked, can there be reports by category? I'm guessing you're talking about the course categories that would be in Moodle in your course catalog. I am going to go and look.
There actually is, and I can answer that question. IntelliBoard.net site, when you pull up your list of courses, it does give you an option of category. It does define those courses by category, and
I just pulled course stats. I don't know. Is it within the activities, or it's in some kind of settings where they would do that? Do you know?
It would actually be back up in the widgets category. I'm not sure if we have multiple categories on this site, but
Yeah, we have 3 categories on this site. It's in there. We'd have to hunt it down for you, but it's in there, Travis.
Yeah.
And if there's any that obviously doesn't meet your needs, again, you can always request the report. And since Moodle does connect all of those courses with their category in the database, they should be able to pull that information and let you create reports by category as well.
And something else that I'll point out there is both the category standpoint and from additional Moodle sites. So within the remote learner package, you can have more than one Moodle site connected and see both the aggregate and then slide down to individual, scope the data down to individual sites as well. So if you are,
excuse me, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I was going to say that kind of goes. We're just going to talk over one another.
I'll be quiet. Yeah.
Well, Travis asked this question. I was going to say it kind of goes with what Travis asked because he says they have 4 institutions using 1 instance each at the category level. He would have to run his reports by category, but if you had 4 institutions and they all had their individual Moodle site, all of those sites would be included under one IntelliBoard subscription if you do the remote learner package because it has unlimited sites and unlimited users, as I mentioned earlier. Correct, Mark?
Yes. So.
Yeah. So if you're managing multiple sites out there.
Yeah, just as I mentioned, we're very excited about IntelliBoard. We're very excited about the dashboard and the advancement on both of those, and are really looking forward to being able to release this, client-wide as well. So.
I think I have hit the end of the questions. I'm happy to hang out for another minute or 2. But as I mentioned, you will receive a recording of this. Sorry about the couple of technical glitches we had, but I think we got it worked out so that we could show off for you what we've got available nowadays. But if you're interested in IntelliBoard, please reach out to Remote Learner at remotelearner.net. There is a contact button on there. Right over here. I'll put this link in the chat. Or if you're already an existing client, please feel free to talk to your account executive for more information on that. And y'all have a wonderful afternoon.